And welcome back to Utility Sports. In today's video, we are covering ESPN's top 25 college football rankings. Now, I think some of these are up for discussion, but there's definitely a pretty good feel for where they're currently at with the college football ranking system. At number 25, we will start off with Wisconsin. Wisconsin was unranked before. Now they are ranked. They were 7-6 last year, but the big reason why they're in this discussion, in this conversation, is the idea that head coach Luke Fickell will turn things around. Having a ton of talent still on this roster, they are prepared to potentially make it push. Luke Fickell brings that culture, brings that atmosphere that he had at Cincinnati. Quite a few transfers from Cincinnati as well, which was pretty crucial. When you look at it holistically speaking, this team is going to be ready to compete year one with Luke Fickell. I think you're going to start to see some of the big returns in a couple of seasons. However, year one, they definitely will be competitive. They're having, quite a few returning starters as well. So a little bit of continuity along the offense and defense will help in that regard as well. So number 25, we have the Badgers. And then now we jump up here to number 24, and you're going to see the Kentucky Wildcats. Now, with Will Levis no longer being there, there's a big discussion on what will this offense look like. No more Chris Rodriguez. Now you're going to see Ray Davis take over as well. So this was an offensive line that had struggled a little bit last season, and I think we're going to see some of that carry over, to be completely transparent with you. But Kentucky has done a very, very nice job over the last couple of seasons putting together competitive teams. So Mark Stoops is going to be very, very hyper focused on this offense and trying to, right the ship and get this to where they need to be in that SEC conference. Moving on now to number 23, we have UTSA. UTSA, 2 straight Conference USA titles. This is a big season for them once again. They were 11-3 last year, 8-0 in conference play. I just don't think that there's going to be a regression step heading into this season. So, when you have so much experience on the roster, I don't see there really being a pathway where they fall out of the number 1 spot in Conference USA. They've been really, really good. They've been consistent. They've been a fun offense to watch. This team is legit, and I think that 23 is a very reasonable ranking in that regard. Now, the next team here, we got Ole Miss. Now, Ole Miss is an interesting team because there's a quarterback battle here. You look at Jackson Dart, probably is going to be the starter in my opinion. I don't think that Jackson Dart's going to lose the job. So talented. This guy's got a big time arm. Lane Kiffin has once again brought in a new staff, which is kind of going to change the complexion of how this team looks. But I think once again they're going to be very, very competitive. SEC play is going to be tough, but I think Ole Miss deserves to stay around this range. Following team here, we got North Carolina. North Carolina, Drake May. Drake May is the big headliner, right? And when you look at what's happening with this team, they had an atrocious offensive line last year. Their defense was not good. There's a lot of things that they actually have to clean up, but Drake May is uber talented. This guy is the real deal. Likely will be a top 5 pick in this upcoming draft. So he has all the tools to put it together, the athleticism, the arm strength. This guy can do it. Mac Brown is super, super excited heading into this season, as he should be. North Carolina, once again, has put together a very competitive roster heading into the season. Following that up is Texas Tech. Now, this one, I think they're reaching a little bit, if I'm going to be honest. Looking at Texas Tech, losing a guy like Tyree Wilson to this defense is going to be big. I don't know that they're going to be right there in that conversation in the top 20. I think they have a good roster. I'm not super sold on it right now, but I think they're going to win some games. I just don't think they're going to be this high in the rankings, to be completely honest. I'm not in love with Texas Tech here. Following it up, Tulane in the AAC. This team can get the job done. Once again, they've lost a couple of guys, more specifically Tajay Spears and Deuce Watts, all have departed. this is going to be tough for them. But I think with the current team that they have, quite a bit of turnover, holistically speaking, on offense, but they're going to be able to replace some of that production. They're ready to roll. Tulane is one of those teams that, playing the AAC, they are going to have a big spring, I think. In terms of what we've seen, they look very tough on paper still at the end of the day. Number 18, we have K-State, and K-State was one of those great stories last year. A lot of guys actually departed for the NFL. I'm kind of excited about them. I still am. Considering where they're at, some of the subtractions that they had, this team's still ready to roll. They got a lot of guys that they were able to pick up in the transfer portal, but at the end of the day, some of that offense still remains intact here. So I think K-State, deservingly so, is at 18. And now we have Oregon State, led by transfer quarterback DJ Uiagalelei. Now, this is a quarterback prospect that a lot of people were super excited about. He had a lot of promise at Clemson, but things did not necessarily go according to plan. He finds himself in the right situation here at Oregon State that really needed a quarterback to take them to the next level, take them to the next height. And I think he has that ability to do that. Kind of getting an actual reset, hitting the reset button on it is going to be really good for his career. Passing offense-wise last year, Oregon State struggled mightily. They were 105th in the nation, and this is a good opportunity for them to get better. He has to be able to utilize the weapons around him, which is pretty exciting for him. This is an opportunity once again to have a shot at that Pac-12, make it to the Pac-12 championship potentially. Now, these are lofty goals and expectations that are set for the Beavers. However, when you have a quarterback of this caliber, you need to make sure that you maximize those opportunities with a guy like that. Number 16, we got TCU, and TCU had a lot of major subtractions. Max Duggan, Quentin Johnston, Keandre Miller, Steve Avila, all guys that were big-time contributors, and a good lion's share of that offense were committed to those three guys. I think we're going to see a little bit more regression with TCU, if I'm going to be completely transparent with you. I do not love the offseason that they had in terms of, they were able to add a couple of transfers. Dylan Wright from Minnesota is one that I've kind of had my eye on. I think he was a little bit underutilized in that offense. He's a talented guy, but Dylan Wright should be right in the mix immediately. I think he could have 1,000 yards this season. Number 15, we move to Oregon. Oregon's in a position here where I think Bo Nix is going to have a tremendous year. He's a first-round hopeful in the upcoming draft, but once again, there's been a lot of turnover with this team. Oregon has had some turnover over the last couple of years, but yet they remain competitive in that Pac-12. They're one of the premier teams still, and I wouldn't expect anything to necessarily change here. Not a ton of returning starters on offense. There has been a lot of changes. However, Bo Nix should be that nice, consistent quarterback that they have. They have a lot of talent at the receiver position, and Oregon should be right in the mix this year. At number 14, we got Utah. Cam Rising recovering from that torn ACL. That is going to be a big deal. Brandon Rose got a lot of work this spring. A lot of work. I know that a lot of people at Utah like him, think he can step in and do a nice job for Cam Rising, but it's not going to be to that level. I think that, I think this is a team that might be a little bit overvalued in terms of where they're at currently. However, they didn't lose a ton this offseason. Two-time defending Pac-12 champs. This team's legit. They have a good roster. Kyle Whittingham has done a tremendous job with this team, for sure. So, Utah at 14. At 13, we have Notre Dame. Notre Dame is going to be kind of interesting because when you look at Marcus Freeman and what he was hoping for this team, last year was not it. Last year, granted, they were 9-4, but there was a lot of aspirations for them being a top 5 level team. That just did not work out to be that way. Tyler Buckner ended up leaving. They get Sam Hartman, which I've been a big Sam Hartman guy for quite some time now. Super productive at Wake Forest. He's a guy that was able to step right in and be an immediate impact player. That is going to be the case once again. He had Wake Forest in a lot of games that maybe they shouldn't have been in. So looking at a guy like Sam Hartman, I love this for Notre Dame at 13. I think this is a reasonable ranking. Following that up, number 12, we got Washington. Now, Washington has Michael Penix Jr. Man, that offense was explosive last year. Super, super explosive. You see the number there, 39.7 points per game. They are legit. Super, super legit. The transfer portal was kind to them, getting Dylan Johnson from Mississippi State. He is going to likely win that starting job, in my opinion. This team's good. Very, very good. They got the Oklahoma State transfer, Jabbar Muhammad, and I think he's going to be a nice cornerback. I still think he is a draftable level player as well. Number 11, we got Tennessee, and Tennessee is going to be led by Joe Milton. Joe Milton has one of the biggest arms in college football. He's going to be super dynamic, and they're going to put up a lot of points. We were not expecting Hendon Hooker to have the season that he had last year, and I don't think that a lot of people are going to be expecting that kind of production out of Joe Milton, but he does have that ability. They have some playmakers still. Granted, Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman both went to the NFL. This team is going to be good once again. I'm excited. I'm really excited to watch Tennessee, and it should be another good year of volunteer football. Following that up at number 10, we have the Texas Longhorns, and once again, Bijan Robinson's gone. This is the Quinn Ewers show. Quinn Ewers is going to have to make some big plays, but he's got some playmaking wideouts. Xavier Worthy is one that I have my eye on for the draft. He is a potential player that could be a first-round level guy, explosive wide receiver, can create the big play. Quinn Ewers is hopefully, now that he's got another season of learning the offense, this guy should be able to get the job done. Quinn Ewers, obviously a very, very highly touted prospect, and it's going to be a big-time year for him to prove that he's everything that he was said that he was going to be. Number 9, we got the Clemson Tigers. Now, the Clemson Tigers are a team that continues to see a little bit of turnover here. Now, Cade Klubnik is the guy heading into the year. Once again, this is going to be an air raid style offense. We had seen it. I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty excited, but the defense, like they highlight in the article, is what's super, super thrilling on that side of the ball, in my opinion. Clemson continues to put together great NFL level caliber players that end up going on and being productive, in the league. Cornerbacks, defensive linemen, they can do it all. So Clemson at 9 makes sense. Number 8, we have Penn State. Penn State is still trying to get over the hump. They're trying to figure it out. How can they get past Ohio State and Michigan? That's what they're trying to do here. But I think they're going to be a little more dynamic at quarterback here. Drew Aller is one of those guys that you have to consider as like, okay, I think he's going to develop into a nice college quarterback. He's going to have a very solid career there. Once again, they had quite a few of the transfers that make some sense. Olufashinu is another one of those guys that is a top 10 level pick in the NFL draft. So I think looking at that, this defense is loaded. Chop Robinson as well. So to me, I see this as a scary contender in that Big Ten. Now at number 7, we have LSU. LSU led by Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is an explosive runner, has a lot to be desired when it comes to throwing the football, but looking at some of the wideouts that he has coming in this year, Malik Neighbors is one of the more exciting wide receivers in the entire country. Aaron Anderson coming over from Alabama, and Kyron Lacey. Those are a very formidable trio of weapons. Mason Smith's going to be back from that torn ACL. And Harold Perkins, another player that they ended up highlighting in here. This guy is legit. Harold Perkins was one of the most exciting players I watched in all of college football last year. Super explosive, a guy that has a knack for finding the football. They moved him inside this spring, and it is paying big dividends in terms of what they're seeing out of practice from him. He's progressing, should be a first-round level player when he is eligible. At number 6, we got the Crimson Tide. Now, the Crimson Tide, once again, Tyler Buckner coming in from the transfer portal. I wasn't a huge Tyler Buckner fan, to be completely transparent. I think that he's going to play well enough. Now, Dallas Turner, another one trying to recover from surgery as well. He is going to be a dominant player this year, highly touted recruit. He is one of those players that should progress and potentially be a top 10 level selection. But this offense, I have a little bit of questions with going from Bryce Young to Buckner. I think that is a huge huge gap there, in my opinion. I think that's why, we continue to see Alabama a little bit lower, is some big question marks at the quarterback position. Number 5, we got Ohio State. Kyle McCord. It's going to be the Kyle McCord show, I believe, all the way through and through. McCord is super exciting in terms of what he can bring from an arm perspective, his ability to make all the throws, big time arm, decent enough athlete. This guy can get the job done. Ohio State's bringing back a lot of returning talent. Jack Sawyer. I love exactly what they've put together here on defense. They are going to be tough to stop, especially along that defensive line. I think Ohio State is a tough out in the Big Ten. Number 4, we got USC, and Caleb Williams coming back definitely does them well. No Jordan Addison this year. They're going to have to replace quite a bit of that production, but when I look at what USC has to offer from an offensive perspective, Dorian Singer from Arizona, and then they got Marshawn Lloyd from South Carolina. Now, a lot of experience on that offensive line as well is going to help, and Cliff Kingsbury coming over as an offensive analyst. Now, some people might just say, okay, that doesn't really matter, but I mean, bringing some NFL head coaching experience, he has some explosive offenses as well at his time in college football, so adding him is going to be another interesting dynamic. Number 3, they got Florida State, and this is hinging a lot of progression on Jordan Travis. Now, people are saying that this guy is a Heisman level trophy candidate. I think that could be the case. There's a lot of weapons on this team to go to be completely honest. I think Mike Norvell's done a great job. He's done a terrific job during the offseason. He's added some weapons. This team's ready to roll. They surprised me a lot last year. I was not expecting them to be as good as they were. Florida State is starting to kind of creep back and get back to that return of where they should be in all the Florida State Seminole glory. I don't agree with them being this high. I really don't. They have a lot of talent across the team, but I do not see them being number 3 in the country. There's a couple of other teams here like Ohio State, Alabama, even LSU for that matter, USC, that I value above them. At number 2, we got Michigan. Now, Michigan continues to add talent to this roster. Already very, very talented the way it is. They're getting some experience. This team is going to be scary. Jim Harbaugh has done a terrific job staying fully committed to this team. There were some dabblings about him, potentially last year when there was thought about the Minnesota Vikings job being open. That ended up getting shut down. So him staying here has definitely paid a lot of dividends, considering that how competitive they've been. They've produced a lot of NFL talent, and this team is ready to roll. I mean, when you look at some of the returning starters, they're going to be good. Overall, this defense is going to be scary once again. I love what they have to offer. Michigan at 2, and number 1 is Georgia. Now, a lot's changed with Georgia in terms of what the roster is going to look like, and this is seemingly the story every year. A ton of defensive linemen are drafted, guys in the secondary are drafted, but now not having Stetson Bennett is going to be a big change. They're going to have to figure that out. Carson Beck is likely the starter. From everything we've seen during spring, Carson Beck has potentially won that job. Brock Bowers is back, which is really, really big. I think when you look at what he can do for an offense, he's a constant threat every single time he touches the football. Right after the catch, he is a mismatch nightmare. They're still going to run the ball effectively. Kenny McIntosh being gone hurts, but they continue to find running backs at Georgia. This makes a lot of sense to me to have Georgia at number 1. So if you did enjoy the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also leave a like on today's video. If you do like seeing more and more college football content, make sure to stick around to the channel, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.